guys, it's Kristen with ICStarsQuilting.com. Welcome back to my channel. I have an interesting idea. It actually came to me at like 1 o'clock in the morning last night, and I woke up this morning and I started to play with it, and it's actually coming together really well. So I wanted to share it with you, and I have already given this project a name, the Loco-scraptastic Quilt Top. That's what came to mind, and I think that's what's gonna stick. So that's what I'm gonna call this quilt method that I'm doing right now, the Loco-scraptastic Quilt Top quilting method. I don't know, still a work in progress. Anyways, so what I have been feeling like in my craft room, and I'm kind of drowning in scraps right now. I don't know how it happened. It kind of snuck up on me. And I'm not one to throw away good fabric, right? So this really snuck up on me, and I thought, I'm gonna use all my scraps. I'm gonna figure out a way to use all my scraps. And what came to me last night was this right here. I am using all of my scraps into jelly rolls. I know, this is not a new method. I didn't make this up. All right, but I want to show you a way that I figured out to make this easy, because I've tried to make my own jelly rolls before, and usually it's fairly easy because I'm cutting larger pieces into big strips. You know, you want them 2.5 inches wide by 40 or so, something like that, or just cut them whatever and then sew them all together so they're one big long strip. But when you sew little small pieces like this, and especially like the angled pieces like this one right here, it gets to be a little bit wonky and it kind of loses its form, right? It doesn't have these straight edges anymore, because your seams, they give a little bit, okay? They give a little bit as you're sewing these seams. So what I did was I have a bolt of really lightweight interfacing. Okay, this is just straight off of Amazon that I bought this from, and it's been really helpful when I've got some like really thin fabrics that I want to sew with another fabric, or when I've just those random patterns that require interfacing when you're making bags or whatever. So I bought a whole bolt of interfacing, and it really wasn't that expensive. But I started cutting this down into pieces that are 2.5 inches wide by, I'm not gonna lie, I didn't really measure. I kind of like just did out some that looked to be about 40 inches or so, a little bit more than a yard. Like, I mean, you can't see it, but like it's probably a little bit more than a yard. When I'm doing fun projects like this, I try my hardest not to get fussy about it, right? I try my hardest not to be like perfectionist level Kristen, who is like measuring exactly, you know, this is 39 3/4, not exactly 40. I try not to do that, especially with jelly roll projects, because jelly roll projects tend to be fun, okay? They're fun for me. I enjoy it because you don't have to look at what's coming next. You don't have to look at how is this fabric gonna go up next to this fabric. I don't want these two together. You know, I have to make sure my points are perfect and all this. You don't have to do that with jelly roll projects. Jelly roll projects, you just sew and you go, and the color matching and stuff takes care of itself. So I have cut, you know, roughly 40 of these pieces that are roughly 40 inches long. Again, this is a fun project. So what I've been doing is I've been taking one of these at a time, and I have been putting my hand blindly into my scrap stash that I have. I overgrew my scrap stash containers, which I had made containers for in the first place so that I wouldn't outgrow it. And then I started a scrap stash bag. And then not only that, but I also have scrap from a project that I recently did with the Pioneer Woman fabric, which that top's done, but it's not quilted yet. So hopefully that's coming in the very near future. So I have some scrap fabric from a little bit of everything, and I don't know how it happened. It just kind of grew on me, and now we're out of control. So I'm taking all those pieces and I am going to sew them into pieces like this. So it's going to have some Pioneer Woman fabric in here. It's going to have some art gallery. It's going to have some of my girl Allison Glass in here, which she doesn't know she's my girl, but heart to heart, we are like the same. I love her so much. So it's gonna have a lot of her in here from her different lines, different projects where I couldn't bring myself to throw those little pieces away. And like, I'm talking like little pieces. Like this right here was part of that. I've got some Tula Pink in here. I've got, let's see, that's more Allison Glass. What else do I have in here? More Tula Pink. You know, stuff from, I don't know, like Joann's, stuff from my Cassiopeia quilt that I've been working on for a while too, and I just finished that one, so you're gonna get to see a reveal video of that soon. You know, I got a lot of stuff in here, and this is meant to be a Loco-scraptastic quilt, so there are no rules to it. I'm not allowed, the only rule is there are no rules. I am blindly picking out fabric and sewing it on as I go, and I'm gonna show you how I'm doing that, because there is also an ironing part to this, because as you know, fusible interfacing is fusible. And that will come into play in a little bit, but I'm gonna show you step by step how I'm getting these done. And then I'm gonna keep sewing today, and by the end of the video, I'm gonna show you how this quilt comes together. And fingers crossed, because in my head is the most amazing quilt ever, and I'm going to love seeing all of my favorite fabrics again. But also it's probably going to be a little wonky, a little bit crazy, right? Because it is a Loco-scraptastic quilt, and it's going to be loco. So let's get to sewing. I'm going to show you step by step how I put this together, and then I'll show you what I did next. So I have a strip of the very lightweight interfacing here. You can see it's pretty well see-through, but if you feel on the interfacing, there is a side that feels bumpy and a side that feels smooth. The side that feels bumpy has some little basically like glue dots on it, so when you go over it with your iron, this will fuse to your fabric. Okay, so I am going to put my fabric face up on the bumpy side. So I'm right-handed, so I kind of like to keep everything going off to my right side, and I've just got a bunch of like hunks of fabric down here. So they're down here underneath my sewing table. You can see them right over here, and then I've got a bag over here on my right side too. So I am just gonna put these two pieces right sides together. And my only concern while I'm doing this part is that the fabric is wider than my interfacing. Okay, that's my only concern. And then I'm gonna sew right sides together, these two pieces right here. And then I've got these right here. And I've been taking them and finger pressing this and then using my hand to smooth this down, because I really don't want like a lump in here. You can tell if I were to sew this, because when I sewed, it went all the way through the interfacing. I used a really light color thread there, but it went all the way through the interfacing. So I want to make sure that this is pressed down like that. And now I have a line right here, okay? Because that strip was cut kind of funny. And I'm gonna put this fabric on it. Let me go right along that line. You don't have to go along that line, but it just makes it easier when you don't really care which way it's going. Again, the only requirement is that it is wider than your interfacing. Now, I have a situation right here where I kind of come to a point here, and this is what I did last time when I came to that point is I just got a wider piece of fabric and did this to it. Now I can come back and I can trim this with my scissors, but I'm going to sew it first just to get it down there. Make sure everything is smooth. Just because it is a little bit more bulk when we've got a little bit more thickness to it, I'm going to go ahead and trim this little piece off right here and then open this up and finger press it back and cut off a little bit more here. So I'm not being fussy with any of this. I just want to make sure that my interfacing is covered 100%, because if it's not covered, it's going to show up on your quilt. And you keep repeating these steps over and over and over. Admire your wonky craziness here. Make sure that your interfacing is covered. Now the back is going to look like this. It's going to be a little bit all over the place, but we're going to take this to our cutting table after we get done with our strip, and we're going to trim it down nice and sharp, just like I did with these. I trimmed off the excess. These are all like crazy wonky and I have this fusible fleece, I'm going to use my little tiny iron here to fuse everything down. And I like doing it on the back side of the fleece because this is not the glue side, right? We have single-sided fusible fleece. The glue side is the side with the bumps on the inside of the fabric. So I'm just going to go over slowly, and that's the thing with the fusible interfacing. I think I said fleece a minute ago. This is not fleece, this is just interfacing, sorry. But that's the thing with the interfacing is you just gotta go kind of slow. Don't move too fast, because once that glue cools, that's when it's stuck really good to that fabric. Okay, and you can kind of feel like as you pick it up, it's sticking nicely to it. And then you just go down the length of your piece. Get it all stuck on there really good. Now it's got seams every single piece that I put on here. So I'm just going nice and smooth, making sure all of my seams are nice and pressed. And I think it's fun when you do like a variety of like really skinny pieces and then really big pieces, or chop it up, do lots of different angles, you know, whatever feels good in the moment. This is one of those projects that I refuse to make it stressful. I want it to be easy. So just letting it all happen, trusting that it's all going to work out. And then I'm going to take this over to the cutting table. I'm going to show you how I cut this nice and neat and straight. Okay, this next part is so crazy simple, but I'm going to show it to you anyways. So you have your piece of fabric here. You have all the wonky edges and unlined up pieces where you just didn't care, right? Or at least you tried not to care. Then I've got a nice plastic ruler here, my rotary cutter. And I'm just going to go line up my ruler with the interfacing that I know is 2.5 inches wide. And I'm going to cut off this little trail of outside fabric, keeping it a nice straight and even cut. These are definitely trash pieces now. They were scrap pieces. I have used them to my absolute most out of them. You can keep them if you'd like making dog beds or something like that to give to shelters, toys for pets or whatever. I suppose you could use it for that. You can use it for pillow stuffing, but as far as fabric and quilt goes, I think that is the end for these pieces. So I'm just going one side to the next. This edge right here is not in a straight line because I don't know why. Okay, I don't know why, but there, now it's in a straight line. So keep those edges nice and straight because you will be attaching all of these pieces to each other to make one big giant jelly roll, right? That's how we make the jelly roll quilts, is we attach all of our jelly rolls together. So we're just gonna go a little bit at a time all the way down. You can save this for the very end if you want to do all of your sewing and then all of your cutting together, but ta-da, there is another strip. That's a lot of sewing for one day. If you're making this project, feel free to have this in a project box, and whenever you get a bunch of your scraps together, pull one of these out and sew it one at a time. You should be able to have all of these pieces stacked up in, you know, a couple months, no problem. Then you can put it all together. Otherwise, that is a whole lot of sewing. It's sewing good, right? So I bet you want to see how this quilt turns out jelly roll style for the final reveal of this project. The Loco-scraptastic Quilt is here and it is gorgeous. I love it so much. I love being able to see all of the beautiful fabrics that I have sewn with over the years, some from projects way back and some from projects that are fairly recent, but they're all from my favorite designers, my favorite fabrics, colors that match and colors that don't match. It is truly a scrappy quilt in its best form, and I love the way that it turned out. Now I'm still kind of toying with how in the world I'm going to quilt this thing because, one, because I have a whole lot of other quilts in front of it in the line, and two, because this quilt is so busy already, I want to do something probably very simple when it comes to the quilting part of it. So not quite sure how I'm going to do that, but I really look forward to getting this one on my couch because I think it's going to be a keeper for sure. It's going to be one. And I will tell you, I was a little bit worried about the way that the interfacing would feel on the back of the quilt, but after I did like the ironing and stuff, it's really, like, it's a good solid piece of fabric. I don't feel like any of the seams are going to tear apart. I don't feel like there's any weakness in this. It's not too stiff or starchy feeling, and especially after like it goes through the wash a couple times, you know, it kind of softens up. That's when I think it's really going to just feel like the best cuddle blanket ever. So I was worried about it feeling a little bit too thick and being kind of more rigid and boxy than just soft flowy fabric, but I think it's really going to be okay. And now when I do wash this, because I mixed so many different colors, so many different types of fabric and like costs of fabric and all of that in there, you know, I have had a lot of comments on my video about Walmart fabric and Dollar Tree fabric and all of that. They're all mixed in this quilt. So if push comes to shove, this is going to be the test that's going to tell everything. So I'm probably going to wash this in just right after I get it quilted with a lot of color catchers and hope for the best. But otherwise, I've enjoyed this project. I hope that you are inspired to create your own Loco-scraptastic quilt and enjoy sewing, do things that make you happy in your life, and have a really great weekend. I look forward to talking with you soon. I'm Kristen with ICStarsQuilting.com. Have a wonderful day. I'll talk to you soon. Hey, if you do not subscribe to my channel, you're missing out. I want you to get the videos that I post every single week with tips, tricks, tutorials, projects that I'm working on, things that are going on in my sewing room, all that good stuff every single week. If you're subscribed to my channel and you hit the little bell afterwards, you'll get a notification when I post new content. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.